We're the two Pilates Chicks coming to you from our studio in Los Angeles. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 3.
Yep.
Yay! 2025 is high in gear now, going and running along. Moving forward. And today, I love this because it kind of touches on some things we've talked before, but in a different way, which is creating space for ourselves as teachers in our teaching moments.
Yeah,
while
teaching.
While teaching. In our teaching. While teaching.
All of the above.
Because we talked about in previous episodes boundaries of business and kind of, you're getting clients and maintaining and all of that. But this is more about in the studio when you're having those struggles.
Yeah, creating your own space while teaching at the moment in the studio. Because the other boundaries are like the business boundaries of having,
emails.
Yeah, having like a end of day that you set yourself, like don't be messaging clients at all hours, have some hobbies outside of the studio, those sorts of boundaries and taking care of yourself. But for this one, creating space for ourselves while teaching.
Which you'd think, oh, how can you do that? Because you're teaching, so you're focused on the client. But you have to be able to create space for you in order to stay present, in order to stay sane.
Yeah.
And in order to stay positive.
Yep.
And supportive. It's important.
Yeah, and it's especially important when dealing with the clients that are more argumentative or intense.
Annoying.
Pushy.
And it could be like their issue, right? Like maybe they're in a bad mood and they came in and like
totally
they're like, and you're like, ooh, okay, we are not in a good place today. And they're just like, meh, 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 meh. And it's like, how do you not absorb that?
Yes.
And get them out of it?
And that can be really hard for teachers who describe themselves like as empaths or highly sensitive individuals, where it's like super easy for those personality types to absorb everybody else's issues and energies and like kind of take it on
themselves
and like on yourself as the teacher. And so if you're going through your day taking on every single client's everything, there's no way to keep that going.
I had a teacher once. I was a new teacher, and it was one of the first studios I was in. She'd been teaching for a long time, and she was one that like was old school where she had like 5 clients going at the same time. And she would like, cause that's how it was kind of that circuit kind of open studio kind of thing. So she would go and just check in, and she was watching me, and at the end of the day, she said, you have got to get your bubble up. Meaning you have to like protect so that they're not bumped. She's like, you are not going to survive.
Yeah.
If you do not put that bubble up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so she taught me about, you've got this bubble and you're in it and they can't get in the bubble.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Cause if you don't create your own bubble, in whatever way that is for you as a teacher, then you are just taking on everyone's everything. And it's just impossible.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful because I was such a new teacher and it was such good advice and it was so simple. It's like you cannot keep teaching that way.
Yeah, it's just, and that definitely leads to burnout and exhaustion and irritability, and we don't want that.
No. And it's like, when that client comes in who's combative, or maybe it's someone you inherited for someone, they're like, well, I do it this way, and that's how I'm going to keep doing it my way. And it's like, they want to run the show. And it's like, you can't sit there and argue back with them, It's like you got to take control.
Yeah.
But you have to take care of yourself first before crossing that kind of conversation.
Yeah. That's our old slogan of you have to put on your own oxygen mask first.
Have to take care of yourself as a teacher.
Yeah.
Because again, you've got to get the initial because when someone comes at you, your initial defense is like, like, oh, and then you react, right? You just react, and you can't just react. You have to like take that moment.
You need a grounding moment. So and it's kind of the case with any issue, any interpersonal issue. But in the studio, like you are the expert, you are the leader, right? So you have to like own your space. You're in the studio.
You are
this is your
in control.
Yeah. This is your session to lead. And so if a client is trying to lead the session or push in some way that doesn't work for whatever reason, we need to take that moment. And yeah, it can be super jarring, and it's really easy to just immediately respond and react very quickly. And it takes practice to not do that.
It does. And you think like when you first start, you're like biting your tongue and you're just getting angry and you're like,
yeah.
But then it's like you get to this like, okay. Because you realize it's not really about you.
Completely. Yeah.
It's about them and where they are in their moment. I used to have this client that she would come in and it didn't matter. It could be the minute she entered the space, the lights were too bright. The lights were too dark. It was too cold. It was too hot. It was this. There was always entering the studio and throwing a negative about what was wrong.
Yeah.
And at first it was just like, oh my God, I just set the tone. And I'm like, you know what? No, don't care. And I would just not even respond. Off you would go. Mm-hmm. And,
start the session.
Yeah. And I was like, just ignored it. Didn't even acknowledge she said it.
And then would she continue to say it, or would she just kind of move forward?
She tried in the beginning. And then also she would then she would get on the apparatus and maybe be like, I can't remember one in particular comes to my mind. I can't remember what we were doing, but I said, just do this. And she's like, oh, no, oh, I can't, oh, no. And I was like, again, trying to guide, and she just kept like, oh, no, I can't. I'm like, okay, let's move on. No, I'll try. No. I'm like, no, we're moving on. And I wouldn't let her, and off we went. I was like, so she never did that again.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and different clients will push in different ways, and then depending on how we respond, they will then respond in different ways.
Exactly. And I knew that if I just walked away and didn't let her, because it was just attention. It was just a way for her to get attention, and I figured that out. And what's funny is from our last conversation with our last podcast, we talked about the annoying clients that soon become your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
She was one of those.
Oh, funny.
So I set the boundaries and I just let things, and then I just was like, I'm not even gonna. And then she became a good client.
And so then did she stop doing the, look fetching?
Yeah. It was like, oh my God. But it took time.
Yeah.
Because she would just try it in different ways. And I think that's the other thing. Sometimes they just want attention. Sometimes the way of them doing that negative, annoying thing is a way to get attention.
Yeah, and some people just do that in their lives and don't even realize it, that's their way of just making conversation.
Yeah.
Or people like complain about the weather, complain about the lights, and it's just kind of a thing they do. And they might not even know.
No.
So for us, if they're coming into our space and immediately starting to complain about everything, it can be so annoying to us.
Because we're like, oh.
So if we find a way to kind of circumnavigate that in whatever way. Yeah.
And also, and I was listening to a podcast, it's Mel Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it was talking about happiness and things. But and we've talked about things in terms of this before, with the trees. I forget which podcast that was. If you think about a tree and you're going through the trees, you're going to hit the tree.
Oh yeah, if you don't look around the path.
And it was, we are really wired for negativity.
Yes.
To survive.
Yeah.
Like, is there a bear out there? Is there this? I've got to watch for this. And so it is very easy for people to go that negative path.
Yeah.
Because it's just natural kind of thing.
It's natural, yeah. Well, and that's why it takes practice to not do that.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to look at the path around the trees to go that way. You have to practice those grounding techniques.
Same with, and that's in teaching. We have to, we will keep running into clients that push that kind of practice. And you just, as over time, you just get better and better at grounding yourself and not letting them affect where you are.
Yeah. And there's different techniques for different people that seem to work. And it takes time. Like for new teachers, it's so hard to do that because you yourself are not maybe as confident yet in your own practice.
Probably questioning yourself, like, what am I doing wrong that they're doing this? What am I not doing right? Right.
And that's why it's, again, so easy to go that negative route of like, what am I not doing? But it's really, it goes back to like, it's not about us, it's about the client. And wasn't it like, it was Kathy Grant and other teachers as well who would be like, leave your baggage at the door.
She actually had the visual of suitcases, like you're leaving your suitcases out there with all your she wouldn't let people in. Wouldn't you love to be able to do that now?
Yeah,
you can't come in.
You're not allowed in until you leave your stuff out there.
Leave it outside. But I always had that visual for myself as a teacher because we all have issues and whatever, and you get to the studio and you're like, oh, and it's like, okay, outside the door, take a breath, leave it, come in, because you're bringing that energy into the space.
I mean, and everybody always ends up leaving feeling better, but it's like how they enter. A lot of times people have a flurry. They were either rushing to get here or they have other stuff going on in the day. And they will always, like, as they're leaving, everything's like calmer.
Yep. They're more grounded. Yep. It's like, whew. And that's what we want. But if we feed into their energy, then that's how they're going to leave.
Yeah. And I find, like, for myself, like, trying to ground myself being, like, feeling my feet on the floor where I'm at. Like, not even really listening to the person be like, bah, 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 bah. But, okay, my feet are under me. Take a deep breath.
I can feel all my 10 toes.
Yeah, and, like, a nice inhale and exhale. And then respond or ignore what they just said.
And go with movement.
Yep.
Let's take a breath.
Taking a breath and just trying to move forward. Yeah, and again, it just takes so much practice, but like lately what I've been doing is just kind of smiling, like if somebody complains about something and either just waiting to let them
get it out,
figure it out for themselves. Like if they're like, oh, something's poking me and I just like, you know, like the base of the headrest or something, they'll be like, oh, what's that? And I just like take a moment and just stand there and let them realize they can just flip it down. It's not that big of a deal.
Not the end of the world.
It's not cutting you. It's just a little poke.
You're not bleeding.
You can move the thing. It's movable. And so let them figure it out for themselves, and then we move forward. Or like when I moved studios, and so my clients are getting used to some of the new apparatus.
I will say because this is like, I was really impressed with this because I've had teachers that have come into my space who didn't teach with grots.
Before.
That they were a balanced body, which you had in your studio before. And their clients would come in and the way the instructor and teacher talked to the client made the client go, ooh, 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 it's so ooh. And whatever you said to prepare them and them come in, it was all like, ooh. It was this positive experience for them.
Everybody was very excited about the new apparatus feel. And I had primed them in a positive way to try to like help them see the positives and the difference of the different types of apparatus.
Because you weren't saying what they had been doing was wrong. No. It's just like, okay, this is going to be different, and these are the benefits of that.
Yep. And so if people then would say something talking about the apparatus, and like I'm thinking of one client, she was kind of complaining that the grots is like a shorter movement than what she was used to on, she used a peak reformer. And so she was like, oh, it's shorter. And I would say, yeah, it is. Like, yeah, there's slightly different dimensions and da-da-da. And I would explain the positives on both sides and just say, okay, so now we're doing this. And just brush
off
through.
We go.
Yep, they are slightly different dimensions. Doesn't really matter.
And then that's just it. It's like kind of approaching it's like there's no right or wrong. They're just different. And, okay, yeah. So this is why.
Yeah, and then everybody with that move, like, everyone was so positive about it and kind of like, ooh, yeah, oh, this is a cool new sensation.
I can feel this. Yeah. I didn't feel that before,
But it was like right at first I actually was kind of anxious before bringing them in. Because I was like, I could tell like, they're going to complain about this or that. But the way we approach it can totally change that experience. Yeah. And it did. And it was funny to like watch them come in and like, ooh, windows. Like, it was like all these little, but it did. You kind of fed into this positivity of the experience of change, which for many people is a scary thing. Change is hard,
but you set it up positively. So they really came in with, I felt, curiosity and kind of like, ooh, let's see what's going to happen.
They were very like open to testing it all out. So we really didn't get that issue of them all coming in and starting to complain about everything.
Exactly.
So we kind of primed it to avoid all of this that we're talking about, and that in itself helped create a positive experience, and that created the space for me to enjoy the transition more smoothly. And that was my way of really like prepping them, but it kind of helped build my bubble for myself.
Yeah.
For that transition.
Yeah. Because if you think about when we do, like, you were there over 10 years, essentially. Mm-hmm. So for you, it's the same as the client. It's like a big change, and it's so you've got to be just as grounded as they are.
Yeah. And I had to ground myself and like center myself more in order to help them with that change and transition.
Yeah.
And it can be hard. And so that really does make such a difference for people, to create that space for yourself as the teacher.
Yep.
To then be able to move more smoothly with the clients.
Yeah. And it's, and it kind of goes into that, because we talked about, they could have easily come in, kind of veers into the next part of it where that client's trying to control your session, mm-hmm. where it's kind of like, oh, well, I like how it was, or this is what we used to do on that, or my teacher, this is how we do this. And they're kind mm-hmm. of trying to take that control over you teaching your type or style, or however you want, way of teaching, your cueing, whatever it is, to getting them to understand, okay, great, that's fine, wasn't wrong, but mm-hmm. this is how we are doing it now.
Yeah. Because that's another type of change if you're changing instructors or styles of movement or trying something new.
And they're going to want to kind of take control of the situation. And you've got to, again, ground yourself, take that breath and say, okay, no, this is I'm the teacher here. I'm in my space.
Yeah.
And this is the way I teach. I'm not going to let them just do what willy-nilly they want.
Yeah. And especially if you're a teacher that like inherits clients from somebody else.
Yeah.
And the client is doing that and saying, oh, well, I do it this way.
Yeah.
And it's very easy as the teacher to feel either offended by that or think, oh, well, again, what am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. Or what don't I know?
Exactly.
But then, again, priming that situation by saying, yeah, that's a great way to do it. Today, let's try it this mm-hmm. way. That's
exactly how I what I do. It. Yeah. It's like, well, that's great. Let's try it this way.
Yeah. Because there are different variations of things. There mm-hmm. are different styles of things.
Different choreography.
And it's all fine depending on what works for that client.
Yeah. Like we talked about in that one episode, which may have been the last one. I don't even know. It's like we talk about it a lot. It's probably one theme that comes up a lot is there are plenty of teachers.
Yeah.
And someone will find the teacher that speaks to them.
Yeah.
But we can't become where we're not creating that space for ourselves as teachers to continue to grow and stay grounded and charged and breathing if we're letting them take over and tell us what to do or how to do it or what, the lights are too bright or this is wrong or this is like...
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things that, like, I know my 7 a.m. client, his eyes feel funky in the morning, and we're the only ones in here. So I'll do I'll dim half the lights.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's fine because he has, like, y'all have this agreement. You have this, he's not going,
Yeah, so we can, accommodate as needed when appropriate.
Exactly.
If necessary, and, if that's okay in the space, if there's other people as well. But yeah, not just bending to the needs of everybody constantly, because then we don't have our own grounding. We will feel kind of lost as teachers because we're not solid in our own self.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our own style.
And I think that really does come over time as well. And I think we talked about this way back, or maybe not, maybe we just talked about it personally. But it's like that one time I got a client who had a teacher in another state. And so he spends time here and then in the other state.
Oh, yeah.
And he had been in an accident. He'd been in pain, came out of pain. But the teacher that he was going to was very much prohibiting him from moving because he had fear. But she wasn't, helping. He was still stuck in the movement of... So when I would teach him and try to get him to, she had him propped with a pillow, which really took him into a not good position. And so he refused to get rid of the pillow. Even though there was nothing wrong with him, there was no reason he needed the pillow.
And it was actually making the position worse.
It was making the position worse. And everything I tried to do, he said no. And he kept saying, you need to talk to my teacher and she needs to tell you what we do. And I literally said on our second session, I said, I'm sorry, I don't teach that way. And I'm trying to get this. And I did talk to your teacher. And, you know, she let me know what, you know, y'all were doing, but this is how and that was it. He was done and I was done.
Yeah.
But it's like I wasn't helping him and he was literally like a brick wall.
Yeah.
Just
so there's
a
no
brick
moving
wall.
forward.
There was no moving forward. And I felt bad because I felt like he could get better and move but he just wouldn't get past, well, this is how I do it and I've always done it that way and this is it.
Yeah, and when somebody's like that, like there's just nothing we can do to work through that. And so sometimes the best thing is to just part ways. And like we said, there's always a teacher for everybody. And even if we see, like, I know how I could help you, but it's just not going to work for them.
No. And that's just it. And it's so funny because, like, talking to the teacher, very nice teacher, and she said, do your thing. Like, do, you know, he has no issues. This is his fear and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, there's a reason. There's different teachers you're going to, and he just wouldn't.
Yeah. And it just doesn't work. There's no way to force it.
But you've got to, like, you know, like you said, if you sit there and cater and then you're just doing what they tell you to do, then you're, not learning as a teacher. By going down a path with this client to improve them. And it's taking away your kind of grounding.
Yeah, it definitely takes away your grounding. It takes away also your confidence. If we're always trying to, like, be like other teachers, what we see online, what we hear from other people, what a client asks for, if we're just always going like wishy-washy through that, we're not developing our own sense of self as a teacher.
Yeah. And I think we didn't even talk about it, but within creating space and what you just said, because now there's so much bombardment with social media and say it this way and do this and this needs to, like, blah, blah, blah. And, ooh, put a ball, do this, do that, do this, do that.
So much is constant overload.
So much.
Yeah.
And it's, you and I have kind of gotten to the point, like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot
not
watch this anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to kind of just go, okay, this is who I am as a teacher. Take that breath and just have that confidence of, this is what I do and this is what I'm good at and this is how I teach and this is how I guide you. And
yeah, and that builds a sense of, like, self-mastery, what they call in, like, therapeutic circles. They're like, you're building your mastery.
Yeah.
And building your own mastery and having confidence in your own skills and self really builds your own confidence.
Yeah.
In all aspects of life.
Aspects.
Especially in teaching, especially in the studio. And it's really important.
Yeah. And I think also when you talk about you and your mastery as a teacher, like, the way we teach is giving the clients that autonomy and giving them.
Yeah.
So one thing, like, when we're talking about these moments, not only are we having to, like, focus and kind of go, okay, but we can give them a focus too.
Yeah.
That takes them out of whatever, that's a combative, argumentative, or this is how I do it, whatever it is. But saying, okay, great, like, let's focus, this is your focus on this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, and they've got to, like, be in it.
So it changes what they're thinking about, changes how they're thinking.
Takes them more into a positive situation that they have control over. Which sometimes that might be a control issue.
Definitely. Yeah. Sometimes that combativeness is control. Complaining can be about control.
Yep.
Especially if it's somebody coming into a new space or working with a new teacher.
Yeah.
Fear. I mean, it's some fear of being in some unknown, and that makes sense why somebody would come in and start complaining about the lights or the this or, oh, where I was before, it wasn't like that. And, you know, because it's new, it's scary. But then spinning that and creating that positivity for them and the space for ourselves totally changes the situation.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, if it doesn't, then that person can go somewhere else.
Yeah. Because I think the important thing when you're talking about creating space for ourselves in teaching is that we have to enjoy being in that space. And I'm not talking about the studio, but being in the space of your teaching your client. Because if you think about, you're in this little box with them, right? In a studio.
Yeah.
There's stuff going all around you, but you're really in that little thing with your client.
You're in that moment with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to be happy in it.
Yeah, well, because if we're not happy, then how can we help them be happy?
Be happy. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, we should talk about wearing hats for those that are watching.
If you are watching this, you can see our little hats.
We have hats today. They're nice hats, by the way.
They're very comfy. It's from Pilates Style Magazine.
And I'm so excited for old school people out there like us. Pilates Style Magazine. I remember I got it every month, and I was like, woo! Yeah, and we found them. All of a sudden, we got a follow on our podcast Instagram. And I was like, Pilates Style Magazine, wait, what?
Like, they're back.
They're back?
So they've been back now for a couple of months.
Yeah, they launched December 23rd, which is past right now. Not really, but it is on this. And they have a website, and you can subscribe. It's online. And he stopped by the studio today, gave us all hats, even the clients that were here.
So fun.
So fun. But I'm super excited because I just feel like our community needs that again, to have that kind of
It's outlet. Great timing for it.
It's so great. And we've given them an article. I don't know. We don't know yet because it hasn't launched, but they asked us for that. So we gave them something in that respect.
Yeah.
And
so you can find us through their stuff too.
Yeah. But if you haven't checked it out, Pilates Style Magazine, just Google. It'll take you to. They're also on Instagram with us.
Yep.
And so you can check us out on Instagram too, and TikTok,
2 Pilates Chicks,
YouTube. What else are we on? We're on Facebook, kind of too.
Yeah, we are. And then our website, PilatesChicks.com.
Yep. And you can also subscribe to our mailing list by going on our website so you can stay updated with everything that's going on because 2025, we have our workshop and tons of stuff happening.
Yeah.
And come see us in the studio.
Anytime.
So that's it. Is that it? We're closing down this one?
Yep. You can send us emails, DMs. We'll respond. And follow us on Instagram for daily updates.
Yeah. We do a lot of stuff on Instagram every day. Yeah. Okay. Yay. Enjoy your day. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.